Good morning. All right. It's my first time doing this for real, so we'll see how it goes. Apologize for being a little bit tardy. There was 2 traffic delays today on the way in, so I thought I was going to ride my bike, but I didn't quite get to it. Probably should have. All right. I'm just going to welcome you here today. This is a meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Humboldt County for Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. And if just take a second, we'll get ready for roll call.
Thank you. Supervisor Madrone.
Present.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Here.
Supervisor Bushnell.
Good morning.
Supervisor Bohn.
Hey.
Supervisor Wilson.
I am here.
All are here.
Great. We'll take a time here, and Supervisor Bohn, if you could lead us in a salute to the flag, that'd be great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. CAO Hayes, do we have any modifications to the agenda today?
Good morning, Vice Chair Wilson. There's no modifications to the agenda this morning.
Wow. I am great. All right. So then we'll move into the consent calendar. This is a time when we go through those items that are on consent. And we have some items that people might want to talk about a little bit, but we'll do the best we can. So since we have a couple of proclamations here, the first one is the proclamation. We'll just start with the retirement resolution for Dennis. We'll go right to the meat of the what's here today.
That's pretty sound fun to meet.
We didn't say there was a lot on the bone. That's what we just said.
And so Supervisor Bohn's gonna lead this one, and so take it away, Rex.
Well, I always love these because I always wonder when I look at the back wall lined, I don't know if they're happy you're leaving or sad that you're leaving. So we'll see how, probably a little bit of both. Whereas Dennis Griffin was hired as a full-time correctional officer Officer 1 on January 26, 1998 by Sheriff Dennis Lewis. On February 6, 1999, Dennis Griffin was promoted to the rank of Correctional Officer 2. Whereas on December 24, 2000, Dennis Griffin was promoted to the rank of Senior Correctional Deputy. Whereas on January 13, 2008, Dennis Griffin was promoted to the rank of Correctional Supervisor. Whereas on January 13, 2019, Dennis Griffin was promoted to the current rank of Correctional Lieutenant. Whereas on December 5, 2025, Dennis Griffin will be retiring after 27 plus years of service with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. Whereas throughout his career, Lieutenant Griffin has held the role of Defensive Tactics Instructor, CERT member, Leader and Manager, PREA Coordinator, ADA Coordinator, Opioid Task Force member, OES Operations Manager, Senior Classification Officer, and Administrative Sergeant. Whereas throughout his career, Lieutenant Griffin has been a member of the Recruitment Team, Department Training Committee, Use of Force Committee, and Crisis Intervention Team. Whereas in 2000, Lieutenant Griffin received an accommodation for his role as a task force member responsible for a comprehensive revision of the core course training for corrections officers for the entire state of California. Whereas in 2022, Lieutenant Griffin was recognized as Crisis Intervention Training Responder of the Year for his dedication to building teamwork between mental health professionals and law enforcement for the betterment of those we serve in the community with mental illness. Whereas throughout his career, Lieutenant Griffin has received numerous accommodations and letters of appreciation from the public and those partner agencies he has worked with throughout the years. Whereas Lieutenant Griffin was instrumental in the development and mentorship of hundreds of correctional deputies over the years, whereas Lieutenant Griffin would be known for his incredible patience, long conversations, sound familiar, you guys?
That's fair, yeah.
Problem solving, even keeled most of the time, and incredible wealth of knowledge. Lieutenant Griffin, throughout his career, worked his countless hours of overtime to help with staffing shortages. Even as a manager, spent extra hours ensuring those he lead never had a problem go unsolved or a question unanswered. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors and the staff of the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office hereby commend and thank Correctional Lieutenant Dennis Griffin for his dedicated 27-plus years of selfless service to the citizens of Humboldt County and the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. We wish him well in his retirement. Signed, Mike Wilson, Chair.
You lost weight?
I'll find it. Give me a chance.
Why is everybody so tall?
I don't know.
Can we get Marco in the picture so I'll feel better?
Absolutely. Yes. Time for you to say a few words.
Oh.
Come on.
First of all, I want to thank the board for the recognition. I appreciate it. It's been quite a ride for almost 28 years, so I'm thankful that you guys took the time to give me some recognition for my career. I want to thank, sat through in the back on a number of these, and it seems like your wife and family always get saved for last, but I want to notate them first. I had a successful career, what I'd like to think is a successful career because I had the support at home, because I was able to work extra hours and devote time to my career because I had such a great wife at home and wonderful daughters that were able to support me and support our life together, and that means a lot. For the other family that I developed here over 28 years, a lot of them have already, retired or moved on, and those are lifelong friendships that I will carry with me on my way out the door. And there's a young, hungry crew out there now that can take the ball and run with this. This job has gotten harder and harder and continues to get harder over these years, dealing with all the people suffering from mental illness and all the state mandates that are constantly thrown at us. Back when we started, it was a jail. We were opening a new jail and a direct supervision model, and since then we've taken on so much more with restoration programs and MAT programs, and now we're going to be doing Medi-Cal billing and all the things with Cal-AIM, and we don't get a lot more resources to do all of that. We just all have to roll up our sleeves and work that much harder, and I'm confident that the team that's going to be there is going to lead us, continue to lead us in the right direction. I want to thank the sheriff and all the other sheriffs that I've worked for over my career, because without their support, I wouldn't be standing here today. So again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I just want to say a few words. Thank you for recognizing Dennis. He is the epitome of strength under control, right? He's a guy that you can always turn to. He's got an open door policy, and you joke around, you can have a long conversation with Dennis, but realistically, he is very approachable. And you know what? When people want advice about life, about what to do inside the facility, promotions, leadership, he's gonna sit down and he's gonna be a straight shooter with you, and he's gonna tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, and it's good. And very rarely does he lose his temper, but if you push, if you back him into a corner, if you want it, he will give you what you need, and that's sometimes both barrels, which is what we need sometimes, right? He is the guy that's taken on a lot of responsibility that no one else really wanted to take on. Jail mental health has been one of those things. Cal-AIM has been one of those things. It's not pretty, but it's part of the job as an administrator that he has embraced, reluctantly though, but he embraced it, and he's done a very, very good job. We are sad to see him go, but we're happy for him because, he gets to retire, spend more time with his family, and do things he loves, like get frustrated on the golf course. Yes. So anyway, just really proud of him. And again, we have a great team in the correctional facility. And one of the things we constantly want to do is highlight our facility and all the things that go on there that many people don't know about. And he's been really instrumental in doing that. So again, thank you, Dennis. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
right, I'll try my best on this one too. So I do want to thank the board for recognizing Dennis. Dennis has been a lot of things to me throughout the years. He's been my boss, he's been my peer, he's been my competition, but more than anything, he's been my friend for over 20 years, and that's a friendship that I know is going to last beyond him walking out those doors, so I'm thankful for that. And we've talked, you know, when you talk about legacy, and I think I've talked about it before, you know, it's not the positions you've had, it's not the programs you've started, it's not the policies you've changed, it's the people you've touched. And that's what he's done. I mean, you can see here in the room and even in the board, you know, people that he has interacted with and touched, and he's meant a lot to the facility, and it's a huge loss of institutional knowledge. So, but like he said, we're going to pick up and we're going to move forward, and I know he'll always be on the other end of that phone call. And the last thing I'll say is his most incredible skill that I'd be remiss if I didn't say is he's the only person I've ever seen that can call an employee in and serve them discipline or counsel them or have that tough conversation, and that employee leaves there thanking him. He has an incredible ability to connect with people and really pass through the genuine feelings and care and compassion that he has for everyone that he works with. So I appreciate you guys recognizing him here today.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. We're gonna get the supervisors ready to.
I stood through enough to just think I would have known, but
That's all right. They're not always the same. Supervisor
Well,
Bohn.
I've known Dennis a long time, and I'm always amazed. I mean, you've worked for a few sheriffs. 4?
yeah.
Yeah, 4 sheriffs. And I think they'd probably all say the same thing as Sheriff Hansel said. We're fortunate, you know, we run, or you guys run, the largest mental health facility in Humboldt County, and the overnight stay, you know, or temporary housing, or what would we call it, short-term housing for mostly, but you do it with great. We don't get a lot of complaints considering you're averaging over 300 people a night of people that most of us don't want to stay at our house. So I think the job you do, led by you over all these years, and I think Sheriff hit the nail on the head when he talked about your calmness. I'm very fortunate. I've never run into you when you've been mad. I'm glad to see he's retiring young enough to work on that golf game, because I have seen that, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
You get your money's worth.
Yeah.
And
It's
the
not
fact,
highest score wins.
yeah. And the fact that you recognized your family, because I think the whole thing is it all comes back for all of you to have support from your families. And I think that for you to say that first being your number one thing, I think that shows a lot of what Dennis is about. So thank you. Hope to see you around. I'm sure I will. So
Thank you.
I'll take it to the other side. Supervisor Bushnell.
I just want to say congratulations, and congratulations for your family as well. And institutional knowledge is really hard to replace, and it brings such a immense amount to the department. And like you said, a lot of young guys are coming up, but they won't have that knowledge. And I know that they'll be calling you and saying, what about this or what about that? And I hope you do improve on that golf game. And
One way to go, right?
And congratulations, and thank you for serving Humboldt County for 28 years. It's a huge sacrifice for you and for your family.
Thank you.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Well, we got the chance to really get to know each other over a trip to the CIT conference.
A lot of times at airports.
A lot of time, planes, trains, and automobiles, right? We were,
Yes.
we had every, for those who weren't on the trip, we had every kind of flight, car, logistical problem that one could have on a trip, and we were car buddies riding to Medford and back together. Anyway, so it was a lot of time to hear about your family and about your life in corrections and what that means. And it really gave me a lot of insight. And I got to see your patience and your good sense of humor and stability and got kind of all of the, you get to see people's personality characteristics when things aren't going so well. And but we had a lot of fun, and you'll be greatly missed. It really meant a lot to me to get a chance to get to know you and to hear, just about what your life has been like with the county too. Very meaningful, and really helped me understand like a lot of things like folks have said that we don't get to see every day, but that you do sort of in cooperation with people on the correction side. Granted they haven't chosen to be there, but given that they are, you have to work with them in this way that's a lot more nuanced than I ever realized. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a model to the folks who've come up behind you and who are going to take your place. And hope, if you don't, I've heard a lot about golf now. If you ever want to play mini golf in Manila, let me know.
Thank you. It's probably what I should stick to.
Well, just very briefly, thanks for being such a great human being. People have spoken to that quality of you, so thank you.
Thank you.
I want to associate myself with all the comments today, and just speak to what Supervisor Madrone said. Sorry. Just the humanity and the compassion that's been expressed here today that reflects on your entire career is something that's we don't always get necessarily. And I just want to, I know this already about you from just even this short interactions I've had with you over the years. And so, yeah, we talk about these retirements and we talk about everybody's role in holding the fabric of society together, and it frays, and there's places where we're mending it, and you're solidly one of the menders, and I really want to appreciate that. It's important. It doesn't happen without hard work and grace, and the example that you have set in that, even in this room today, it's something that that's is an outward thing. It spreads and it's shared, and so I just want to really appreciate that. Thanks for your service, and people like you will be serving in other ways for as long as you can. I'm absolutely 100%
have a lot
of it.
of golf game to work on, so
I don't know.
Yeah.
Even on the golf course, you can spread humanity and wisdom, but I have a feeling it'll be beyond that space too. So thank you so much. I really appreciate Dennis.
all right. Thank you. Thank you all.
One last time, you guys. And we're moving on. All right, so next on our agenda is the proclamation recognizing November 16th through 25th, 2025 as Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, and this is brought to us by Supervisor Bushnell.
Is anybody here for this?
Yeah, there's a few folks.
You can come forward. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week, whereas the theme of hunger and homelessness, I'm going to wait just a minute. Whereas the theme of Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is housing is a human right and food is a human right. And whereas people from all walks of life, including individuals, families with children, employed and unemployed workers, elderly residents, veterans, disabled individuals, and youth are impacted by hunger and homelessness. And whereas the community recognizes that hunger and homelessness continue to be a serious problem for many individuals and families living in Humboldt County, and no one should have to worry about whether they have food on their plate or a roof over their head. And whereas 18.9% of the population is below the poverty rate, 16.7 face food insecurities, of whom 6,000 are children, 30,000 residents are enrolled in CalFresh, of whom 26% are children, and 80% of children qualify for free or reduced school meals. Most live on fixed incomes or survive paycheck to paycheck. Food for People distributed 2.6 million pounds of food serving 21 individuals, And whereas while homelessness creates barriers to accessing essential services such as affordable housing, healthcare, childcare, and education, the cost of these necessities often contributes to hunger, food insecurities, and people experiencing homelessness on any given night. And whereas the aim is to eradicate homelessness by solving the root cause of it, to educate the public about the reasons people are hungry and experiencing homelessness, including the shortage of affordable housing for low-income residents, and to encourage support for the organizations committed to sheltering, providing supportive services, as well as meals, food, supplies, clothing, hygiene products to the homeless and hungry. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by Humboldt County that November 16th through the 25th of 2025 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week, and encourage all people in the community to work together to find meaningful solutions for these problems. Signed, Mike Wilson, Chair.
During the picture taking group. Can I do one more where you're looking at me? Yeah. I was a little side saddle there. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're here to accept this proclamation, and we thank you a great deal for recognizing Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. Some of us work with that all year long, and we're excuse me, we're accepting it on behalf of everyone, all who have been touched or experienced homelessness, either as a child who's whimpering because they have an empty, hungry belly, or a neighbor who's in the bushes because they don't have a safe place to go, or the people individually or collectively who've worked in efforts or networks to bring resources to people. And that goes over many generations here in Humboldt County. So we want to thank you on behalf of the people who receive services and the people who provide them. I'm with AHA, Nezzy Wade, and AHA is the people who both provide and receive services. That's what makes up AHA. And the figures for homelessness and hunger are staggering. And the prospects for our future with respect to budget cuts and things that we're facing now based on federal dollars make it look pretty bleak in our future. A cut from 80 to 30%, a 50% reduction. That's huge for us. And it impacts permanent supportive housing, which has been used now for getting most of our folks into housing. The state needs to invest more in housing. 2%, less than 2% of the general fund goes to housing for the state. We really need the state to step up, and we need to work better and put more input and pressure on housing and community development so we can open up different kinds of housing types that we need. We need social housing, we need cooperative housing, we need small footprint houses. We need to do a lot of things that need to be incentivized, need to be funded. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and especially when it impacts extremely low income or low income people. And we just got the proposed RINA numbers, nearly 6,000 units, and 52.2% of those are for low income. And we have categories now of the aggravated, or not aggravated, but acutely low, extremely low, very low, and low income. That's a tremendous number in our county, and they're all being impacted. And what's really critical is that for the extremely low income, extremely low income people, 85% of them pay over 50% of their income in rent. And for thousands and thousands and thousands of them, there is no prospect of acquiring affordable housing or homes. So we really need to because we rely on the federal government, it's going to get harder. And so the only way we can get through this with all of the nonprofits, CBOs, collectively, we all really need to work together. And I want to encourage all of you to reach out to all of the groups now that are working on issues around hunger and homelessness, because we can work together. That's really the only way that we will get through this or beyond. And we need to do some things differently. And we asked when we declared a shelter crisis to form a task force. And when the housing element is coming up, it was a perfect time to start working with a task force of people who can inform that process. Place people in a task force, create a working group that involves the people who are experiencing these issues so that they can inform it well. And then we can do this with a focus on creating community and cooperation and collaboration so that we actually bring to Humboldt and to the best ends in what we can do in Humboldt, and I know we can do a lot. Bonnie McGregor was going to be here today. I don't know, some of you may not know Bonnie, but most of you do. She is an advocate still, but when she first came to Humboldt County in '89, she came as having been the director of the food bank in San Francisco and the Food Network in California for sharing food. And one of the things that she asked me to say, because she can't be here, is that she's watched the Board of Supervisors meeting. She watched the last one in the decisions around camping in the county. And she said for all of her years, this board is probably one of the most compassionate, effective, engaged, smart, and able to affect some of these things. And she applauds you, I applaud you. Everybody is very much aware that there's great potential here for creating some things that we need and need up front. So she encourages you to create a task force. We've always been to this place where we have 30 years, or not 30 years, 3 generations of people in homelessness and all the people who have stepped up to work on it for generations. And so that's a legacy that exists. We have a wonderful county and community that are working on these things together that have nothing to do with government, but would like very much to be partners and work hard on getting some of these things done. So with that, I would just like to say that we need to honor and support each other and everybody who's involved in the process, and continue working as hard as we can on resolutions for hunger and homelessness. So thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Carly Robbins, Executive Director at Food for People. I will be brief, because I know we're going long. But I just want to say a few words. The link between hunger and homelessness is pretty direct. Even though 90% of the folks we help at Food for People are housed, they're living that paycheck to paycheck life where having to make the choice between putting food on the table or paying their rent can mean they will fall into a state of being homeless. And frankly, this has been a challenging year for anyone doing food security work. From the cuts we've seen to just the last few weeks of folks losing benefits, it's been pretty dramatic. And I really only see it going farther in that direction. Pretty soon, federal changes to policy will have significant impacts on how supplemental nutrition assistance programs are administered and who's eligible. These shifts are going to place more burden on states, counties, our hardworking assisters, our entire team at DHHS who are working hard to make sure folks have CalFresh. And ultimately, it's going to kick people off of the program. And that's going to put more burden on food banks, food pantries, and NGOs doing this kind of work. Just for a little snapshot, when SNAP benefit delays were announced, we saw a 40% increase at the food bank immediately. And that's a capacity that we weren't built to see all at once. And if we see this trend continue, that's a lot more than what we're built to offer. We're working hard. I can say the bright spot in all this is our community and how everyone has shown up for one another, from folks offering their support, volunteering, donations. It's been incredible. At the nonprofit level, we're all working together and really leaning on each other right now. Humboldt County takes care of one another, which is what I'm holding on to as we look ahead to these new changes. So just want to thank you all for your continued work and continued support. Thank you.
Do we have, I think we might have staff who has something to say about this too. So.
Yeah, Robert from DHHS is here specifically to kind of share some updates with us.
Hi, Robert Ward, Housing and Assistance Coordinator with DHHS. Well, Nezzy alluded to the federal changes. I'm happy to speak about that if you're interested. So,
Yes.
the notice of funding availability or opportunity came out on Thursday night. The headlines are, we're looking at a 30% cap on permanent housing. We're at 91% right now. We're also looking at a 30% tier 1 group. So that's the SAFE funding. Traditionally, it's been about 90%. That allowed us to make assurances to our clients, to our landlords, that these are permanent supportive housing programs. That means they're long-term. They should be there, God willing, as long as the federal government continues to appropriate the money. Now, the HUD wants to move back in the direction of transitional housing in kind of an extreme way. So, what's left that you can do with these funds that are not permanent housing? It's transitional housing, street outreach, and supportive services only projects that pay for services but not housing. We could lose up to 70% of our funding. This pays for a little bit for the coordinated entry system, for the homeless management information system, and then the rest is essentially permanent supportive housing. So with the competition, there are a number of concerning scoring factors. The NOFO says that they can penalize us for, or grant applicants for past practices of harm reduction. Harm reduction is intimately connected with housing first. It's the idea that, we're not going to condition getting the housing on, you don't have to receive the case management or get med compliant or get sober before we're going to give you the housing, and we're not going to require you to maintain all of these things just to keep you in the housing, because it's counterproductive to evict somebody just because they relapsed. We want to assertively offer the treatment. So anyway, we can be penalized for that in this competition. And that goes, across the whole country. It opens up the possibility for funds to be shifted from certain jurisdictions and organizations to other more preferred jurisdictions and organizations. If we're successful in the competition, we could potentially transition 60% or so of our permanent supportive housing to transitional housing. We'll get 1 year to transition. That takes us to October 1st, 2027, when they would have to fully be transitional housing projects. The big difference between transitional housing and permanent housing is the 24-month limit on how long people can remain in the transitional housing. And the real problem is we have people in these projects that either have no income or they have SSI or SSDI. The rent is about $1,000, $1,100 a month for these units, and their SSI benefits are about that much. So the math just doesn't work. There's nothing affordable. There's very little affordable for them to transition to. We help people get on waiting lists, but those take years. There are many other concerning things in the notice that we could discuss. I'll pause there.
That's a lot to take in. So, all right. We have a few hands up so I'm gonna, unless you want to jump in before that. All right, Supervisor Bushnell, jump in before that.
I just want to comment about the homelessness and the food for people and the work that's done in the Southern Humboldt and District 2 and Humboldt County. I appreciate it so much. I've worked, Robert, with you and coordinated with down in Garberville area where the services are very far removed. And the Food for People, Blocksburg is a post office, but they come there and serve out of the Alder Point Fire Station, and likewise in Shelter Cove and Whitethorn and Garberville and Bridgeville. And those areas are very far removed, and the people are just, it's a very good environment. They don't feel awkward. It is like a community event, and I just can't thank you guys enough for the work that's done there. The anxiety that's felt right now with the depletion of funds and people's insecurities being heightened by that, it's just astronomical. And so the fact that you guys have really just worked overtime and double time to make people feel more secure, I just want to say thanks so much.
All right, anything else from Supervisor Madrone?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks for being here, Robert. I saw that news in the headlines. I thought, oh my God, I mean, it's already been tough enough, and seeing funding change and constantly shifting from priorities is kind of a nightmare, frankly. It doesn't really help us solve our problems. But as many of you know, and I think Nezzy was speaking to this just a couple of weeks ago, we gave some direction and formed an ad hoc for a compassionate assistance program to try and work together on figuring out how we can all work together on some of these things. And that ad hoc includes DHHS, behavioral health, also includes the Sheriff's Department of Public Works. But I really want, and two supervisors, Supervisor Bohn and Supervisor Bushnell, who have stepped up to agree to help work on this. But I think we all know that we've got some really strong partners in this community, and I'm hoping the ad hoc will be reaching out to them, whether it's called the task force or however it's formed. We have a tremendous amount of wisdom in AHA, in Food Bank, in SHOW, in Southern Humboldt, Arcata House Partnership, Betty Chin, and John Shelter from New Directions, who actually gets right out there in the camps working with people. So I'm hoping that our ad hoc will absolutely reach out to these folks and seek their wisdom and advice in how we might continue to partner on this compassionate assistance approach to solving some of our problems. We're not going to solve them all by any means, especially with funding changes, but when we work together, we're going to do a lot more. So thanks for being here and giving us the update. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Bohn, you have anything?
With California being the fourth largest economy in the world and everything else, I think it's time we accept responsibility for California and maybe, somebody said focus and figure out what we're trying to do. We've spent, since 2019, they estimate between $25 and $35 billion on homelessness. And it doesn't seem to be improving. It just seems, and whatever we can do, I see a lot of housing being built now, apartments and stuff being built now. But maybe we redirect some of our California funds into solving the one major issue that becomes to every mind. And hopefully we can shake that tree and get a few of those dollars down and not be so dependent on the federal government. So what they're doing, they're going to do. But what we can do for ourselves is probably the most important thing. And I appreciate you guys for stepping up. I appreciate, but it's time to address a lot of that money to the problem instead of saying what the problem is. We got a lot of people telling us what the problem is, but we're not really working on the problem. We can see that here in the city of Eureka, and now we see it stretching out into the outlying areas, and we just had to address it last week or 2 weeks ago in our last meeting about where we're going to let them camp and not camp, which is a very compassionate thing. But we want to look at our faith-based community, but as everybody's donations are going down, so is the basket at church going down too, because in these tough times. So hopefully we can do a little bit more on our own and not be as dependent and take care of these situations, and at least give them situations that are, I don't know if we'll have independent housing, but in situations where they can get out of the cold, wet, and it's not an emergency shelter. It's the 365-day shelter. And you go back and look at the yeoman's work that Brian Hall does and what he does at the rescue mission. And then you look at St. Vinny's, what they're doing, and the people that are trying to help. There's a lot of people out there trying to help a lot. And we really have to appreciate those people. So thank you guys for what you're doing. And Carly, thanks for what you're doing. I mean, I can call Carly on Saturdays or Sundays. We had a local dairyman want to donate some milk the other day. And I think, no, it wasn't said much, and there wasn't much said. I went out by there, and it was packed. But they threw a emergency food bank together the other day out at College of the Redwoods. So I want to thank everybody at College of the Redwoods. And I think they had 800 cars within the first 2 hours. 800 cars within the first 2 hours. And that was people in need. But that was an emergency food bank that wasn't, it wasn't that it wasn't meant, tried to be publicized. It was just short notice and trying to fill gaps in when people that couldn't get their SNAP benefits. So we didn't have that abyss that they fell into. And Food Bank stepped up with a lot of other partners and made it happen. So that was, it's holidays, it's time to give, it's time to share, and I always hope that Food Bank in some of these areas that put most of their funds into their programs and that they are thought of during the holidays and year round, not just during the holidays. I know we do a lot, but you know, thanks. And Carly, thanks for what you're doing there.
May I respond on the state-federal thing? I think it might be helpful to quantify some of this. Yep, so we have 63 permanent supportive housing slots. I ran some reports yesterday. We have a few more people in that because we're able to stretch the dollars sometimes. So, but in terms of total permanent supportive housing in the county, we were over 390 people. So most of the permanent supportive housing does not have federal dollars in it. The bulk of the money in recent years has been from the state. The problem is the state funding is always, we're told it's one time, and we don't know, what's going to come next. So, a reporter asked me yesterday, how much do you get from the state? And I'm like, well, we got this much, and it was for these dates, but I don't know what we're going to get in the future. So it's like if we were applying for benefits, it's like we got no reasonably anticipated income at this point from the state. Well, so that's not true. There's $500 million that's been appropriated but not allocated in the 26-27 budget for HAP 6. There's ongoing CalWORKS HSP funding. The HUD funding is like $1.2 million. So it's been more on the state side, but the federal funding has been great because it's been consistent. It was reliable, you could count on it. The state, meanwhile, doesn't want to increase their year-over-year costs indefinitely, so they haven't been willing to make these ongoing commitments, unfortunately. Yeah.
We're going to continue with the board on this, but I just want to note that there are a few people online that have comments. I don't know if it's on this, it's just on the consent calendar, so when we're done having this very brief discussion, then we'll open it up to, because I don't think there's anyone else in the room that wants to comment on things that are outside what we're talking about right now. So then we'll have those comments in the room first, and then we'll go to the online. So Supervisor Arroyo.
Thank you for those amplifying comments. That was helpful. Yeah, I want to go in turns and thank each of you. I mean, AHA, starting with AHA and Nezi, thank you for continuing to provide in a really grassroots way this support for people to get clean and to get basic necessities, and continuing to voice support for people who are unhoused and their needs. I think that's really critical, and I know that sometimes in the past we've been a bit at loggerheads over things, and I just want to thank you for continuing to show up and speak for that population, and continuing to do the work, 'cause it's not easy. Food for People and Carly, thank you so much for stepping up in this moment. You all already provide so many safety net food services for our community and already do so much. So to have to amp it up is incredibly hard at a time when people are scared and probably people's fuses are a little short and everyone's, stewing in this sort of sense of uncertainty. So thank you so much for that. I do see some members of our Behavioral Health Board. I know Laura's here as well and had to just briefly step out, who works for the City of Eureka and does frontline work with some of the most vulnerable folks. And then Kelly and Vernon, I appreciate you both so much and the work you do. So we're in the room with people who are doing this hands-on day in, day out. And then Robert, thank you so much for shedding light on what this really means for us. And what I heard in all the numbers that were thrown around is that a really large percentage of our funding is at risk to provide stable, permanent, supportive housing. And so when we talk about programs that aren't working, we do have a lot of people housed who would otherwise not be able to be housed because they need that level of care of, having a caseworker, having someone address some of their basic needs so that they can remain housed. That is what permanent supportive housing is. And so if we lose funding for that, that means we'll have a lot more people unhoused who can't otherwise be housed in a stable way. So I'm worried about that. I will say I'm deeply worried about that, because just because we currently see people on the street doesn't mean that our programs aren't serving other people who aren't on the street. So we have a lot of people who would, I think, become homeless, who we've struggled and worked hard with and invested a lot of time and energy and trust building to get them to where they're at right now. So I'm really deeply concerned about that. And whatever we can do as a board to tell that story or to advocate, I'll say I'm willing to do, and I believe this board would be willing to do. So thank you for sharing that. It is it's about to shove people out unless we find other resources to kind of fill those gaps. And it's unfortunate that our focus on very data-driven harm reduction approaches is being used as the ammo.
Okay. I guess what I'm going to do is I just give my little bit on this, and then we'll go to public comment here in the room, and then we'll go to online. So if you're online and you have public comment on these consent items, please understand there's a delay, so raise your hand as soon as now, and then we'll get to you in a minute. I associate myself with all these comments, especially around the thanks for everybody who's doing the hard work here. And I want to, again, from my perspective, get out there that we have a community of people that are working very hard to address these issues. We have a community of organizations and institutions working with little to nothing or less than before. And we do sometimes have some, within the community, some disagreements on the strategy, on the push-pull, where that is. But make no mistake, everybody wants the same thing. So I think we're aligned with that. And we just really have to, from my perspective, there's just something bigger happening here. We recognize that this is Hunger Homeless Awareness Week, but there is a larger crisis unfolding in real time, and it's going to have devastating consequences on our most vulnerable people. So this week, the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department announced catastrophic changes to the Continuum Care Program, amongst other things. And then on top of this, devastating food security cuts. They can't. The administration, I'm talking federally, administration canceled millions of pounds of food already allocated to emergency food assistance program funding. And during the shutdown, this administration chose to block SNAP funding for 42 million Americans after a lower court ruled that they must release the fundings. With no justification, no policy rationale, no explanation, this administration went to the Supreme Court to ask them to rule to reverse the previous ruling so they could continue to withhold food assistance and even demand states claw back already distributed funds. When you work to harm millions of people with no reason, the conclusion is obvious that cruelty is the point. Make no mistake, we see it, it's right in front of our eyes. Here in Humboldt County, our dedicated county and city staff, nonprofit organizations, volunteers, and generous donors have worked tirelessly to address hunger and homelessness. All the organizations we mentioned today, Food for People, Arcata House Partnership, Department of Health and Human Services, housing teams, countless volunteers have built safety nets through extraordinary effort. Our local heroes have been carrying an enormous burden, and now the federal government is making it exponentially heavier by cutting both the roof over people's heads and the food on their tables. It's about priorities. I mean, we have to be clear about that. We live in a nation where billionaires pay lower tax rates than teachers and nurses. Corporations exploit loopholes to pay nothing in federal taxes. And the government claims it cannot afford to house homeless veterans and feed hungry children, yet found trillions in tax cuts benefiting the wealthiest Americans and the most profitable corporations. We have the wealth, we've never been wealthier, and the question is who gets to keep it? When the federal government slashes housing and food programs while refusing to ask those who can most afford it to contribute, it betrays the hard work of our county staff, our nonprofit workers, volunteers, and donors who have dedicated themselves to helping our neighbors. These cuts leave our local heroes to fill impossible gaps and with insufficient resources. Every dollar spent on supportive housing saves money on emergency services. Every dollar spent on food assistance stabilizes our community. But instead of asking for those who have benefited the most to contribute their fair share, we just see these tragic cuts. We can see it. We see the deliberate infliction of suffering for political purposes, and we see the contrast between fiscal constraint claims and tax advantages for corporations and the ultra wealthy. And we just can't accept this normalization. So to our county staff and nonprofit partners, volunteers, and donors, I want to thank you, and we all want to thank you for your unwavering commitment. You deserve a federal partner, not an adversary. And so with that, I'll open up to public comment in the room. So please line up if you have public comment in the room, and we're going to be 3 minutes or less.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the distinguished board, my name is Vernon Price. I come at you this morning in many different characteristics. I come to you as a behavioral health board member. I come to you as a community member and a former homeless member of this community. I'd like to thank MIST, the DHHS, the HHHC, Nezzy Wade and AHA, Carly and her department. I was either going to put food on my table or my lights were going to be cut off last month. This is a troublesome time, but I believe we can turn these obstacles into opportunities of us working together, living together, and pulling up our shirt sleeves to grab the plow together. We can do this. We've been through worse than this as a community, and I believe we can make it through this. Thank you so much for all of your support and everything that you do for the homeless and the unhoused and the hungry. Continue on with the wonderful work that you do, and we as lived experience will take hold of the other side of the plow with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment in the room before we move to on Zoom? Moving it to Zoom. What do we got? How many?
Thank
how
you. We
many
have no
hands up?
callers. No hands up.
No hands up.
No.
All right. Is there any more discussion on anything on the consent calendar before us today? Supervisor Bushnell.
Thank you. I just want to recognize the Headwaters Fund Board's recommendation for the loan for Southern Humboldt Hospital. It's very instrumental for trying to get the hospital built down there. Most people know that the current hospital is not seismically retrofittable, and we have to have a new hospital built. Without that, we don't really have a community. That's you have to have some kind of a hospital service in your community. So I just want to thank that opportunity for them.
Thank you. Medical services are economic development, amongst many other things. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to try this out here. Is there opposition to unanimous consent to passing the consent calendar? Seeing no opposition, the consent calendar passes unanimously. Moving on. I do love it. Moving on. All right, so the first thing that we're going to get to, I think, is, let's see here, public hearings. Oh, public comment on non-agenda items. Thank you so much. Do we have anyone in the room on public comment for non-agenda items? I'm giving this about 30 seconds before we move into online, because remember, online folks, you have about a 30-second delay. So anybody here in the room?
On non-agendized items.
Non-agendized items, yeah.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Vernon Price. I'm here to speak about the DHHS Code of Conduct that was adopted, or effective date October 1st, 2025. I believe I came before my Board of Supervisors, District 4, and some others. I did make it very much known that on or about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, I come across a gentleman that does assessments for the unhoused, for the mentally ill, and this community at Humboldt County Mental Health, with a meth pipe in his hand and the meth pipe still smoking. We need accountability off the clock. I give to you this morning a document from the United States Department of Justice adopted January 29th, 2016 about off-duty conduct. I'm not going to speak much about it. It gives a lot of federal codes that needs to be addressed in our local community. Please read this document. It is a live and living document, and it is adopted by our federal government. Resolution Executive Order 12674 and Executive Order 12731. Please take note of that. District Interim County Council, please take a look at this and see what we can do to come up to the standard of our federal government. Thank you so much for your time, your concern, and your consideration on this matter, and please have the best day possible.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else in the room that has public comment on non-agenda items? All right, moving online. Is there any hands up for online? Unusual. All right, we'll take it. We are a little behind schedule. We have a 9:30 time set, and it is 10 o'clock, so we'll do that 9:30 time set right now, which is Humboldt County Fiscal Year 2024-25 Behavioral Health Board Annual Report. All right, can bring it here. Thank you, everybody, for giving me a little bit of grace as I move through this first meeting as chair. Please.
First for myself as well. Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Montagna, Behavioral Health Board Chair, and I do have a presentation, short slides. This is our board. This is who we are. We are a up to 15 member community oversight board appointed by you. Our role is to review and evaluate the county's mental health, substance use disorder system, advise leadership, ensure public involvement, and submit this annual report. This year we reached full membership for the first time in several years, and we're now in full compliance with state updates from Proposition 1 and SB 326. That strong membership foundation helped us expand our work and improve representation, including youth voices. Next slide. Here's what we saw. Across the year, we reviewed presentations from Children's Behavioral Health, Adult Services, the Crisis Continuum, SUD programs, HEPI, which is the Early Psychosis Intervention Program, and many community partners. Several themes came up repeatedly. System pressure. We have staffing shortages, long stays in acute care, and higher demand for crisis response. Mobile crisis teams had over 1,500 interactions, and crisis lines averaged more than 40 calls per day. Semper Virens continues to run as one of our only a handful of county-operated psychiatric facilities in the state. Major policy shifts. So Care Court was launched in December. SB 43 is expanding grave disability criteria, and MHSA is transitioning to the new BHSA, or Behavioral Health Services Act. Community needs, youth supports, culturally responsive care, and better step-down and local treatment options were emphasized throughout the year. And just to let you know that in the short time since this report was done, we have seen many of those. We have many good things coming to this county, and that's from the work that you're doing. So as the Behavioral Health Board, next slide, what we accomplished. We were focused on strengthening the board so that we can better serve the county. Full membership. After years of operating below capacity, we now have a full board and even a wait list. We finally updated our bylaws, which was quite interesting. With the changes to state law under Prop 1 and SB 326, we completed a full rewrite of our bylaws and brought them into compliance as of January 2025. So that means we have someone from the education community, we have veteran, we have Tay. So that was I feel good that we're ahead of the curve on that. Community engagement. We increased visibility by participating in several fairs, creating professionally recorded stigma reduction educational panels, collaborating with the City of Eureka and DHHS, and these are now public resources. Next slide. What's coming up? Next 2 years will bring major structural changes to our behavioral health system. BHSA transition. The shift from MHSA to BHSA brings new funding allocations and timelines. Counties must submit draft plans by early 2026, which will require significant community engagement. Facilities expansion. The county is moving forward with the Crisis Triage Center near Mad River, new Sempervirens replacement funded by Prop 1, the Navigation Center, and a youth behavioral health facility, and possibly a new detox program. And then policy and mandated changes. Care court implementation continues. SB 43 expands the definition of grave disability in 2026, and we still face staffing shortages alongside increasing mandates. Our board's role is to monitor these impacts, support transparency, and keep community voices central as the shifts roll out. And in closing, last slide. As you move through your budget and policy decisions this year, we ask that you continue supporting the staffing, infrastructure, and community programs that keep people stable and safe. Our system is changing rapidly with new mandates, new funding structures, new facilities. These changes will only be successful if we work coordinated. The Behavioral Health Board is committed to bringing your partner and staying informed and keeping community voices at the center. So let us keep up the great work that you're doing. Let us know if there's any way that we can help. And with that, I am done. Do you have any questions?
All right. I'm going to start with Supervisor Arroyo because she's our rep on the board.
It's great to see you. Thank you for your report. I will ask before you all go if we could take a quick picture together as Behavioral Health Board members, but I don't have any questions. I'm familiar with the report and just all the work that we've done over my time on the board, and the presentations are amazing. There's always some really just helpful information about some piece of our system or partnering organization at each of these meetings, and those are summarized in the Behavioral Health Board's annual report. So I encourage folks to look at that if you have the chance. No questions though. Thanks.
Anybody else? Supervisor Madrone.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of the board members and the hard work going on there, but you have been a really fantastic chair there. I was lucky to serve there for a few years, and yeah, quite a milestone getting full representation again. That was not easy. Vernon, thank you for your long dedication to that board as well, and as well as Supervisor Arroyo and her work there. But I just really wanted to say thank you because it's not an easy thing to do to get 15 members involved in something like this, but with your work that you do in Eureka, I think you bring a lot of that to the board, and that experience and that care that you provide in the outreach in the community. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, thanks.
All right, photo time.
Thank you.
And then if there are comments in the room, get ready after the photo. Stand up. It's okay. You can do it. And then after that, we're going to go on Zoom. Oh, wait.
Just the four of us will be together. Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Okay.
And all the photo bombers in the background.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, I started moving away. All right, thank you.
Okay, is there any comment in the room, public comment on this item? If there is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vernon Price again. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I am a part of the Behavioral Health Board, and it has been a very much honor to serve with and under our new leadership over the last 2 years. If you've noticed the recent history within the last few years, this is the first time it's been on time for a while. So our leadership, I want to say thank you. Breaking down the barriers of mistrust in the community with her leadership in the city of Eureka and on the board collaborates together of rebuilding trust amongst the people that we give mental health services to. So I just want to say thank you as the board, and thank you, our chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Emmy Botzler-Rogers, Behavioral Health Director. I don't have a lot to say, but I just want to really appreciate the Behavioral Health Board. And as others have said, we have really shored things up over the last few years. I think Laura Montagna has done a really great job. There, if you look through and you see all the highlights, I think the bylaws is a huge win. I think a full board is a huge win. But one of the things I really want to most underline is the partnership that this board has with behavioral health and their willingness, Laura and others' willingness to really understand our system and to be good allies and advocates with our community. So I'm just have a lot of gratitude for the board. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in the house here? Seeing none, we're going to move online. Anybody online?
Yes, we have caller 7718.
All right, bring in 7718, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Ken Sawatsky here. When you didn't have comments on Zoom earlier, if something seems to be too good to be true, it is. So your Zoom wasn't functioning. It is right now, fortunately. I did wish the main thing on this topic is shout out to Vernon. You know, Vernon has been a real asset to the county, always there, always speaking, and always making a difference. So thank you, Vernon. Regarding your funding for all of these things, as you acknowledged earlier, a lot of these things will be drying up rather rapidly. You've got a couple years to wean yourself in these programs. The state won't be able to take it over because they're not going to be in that good a position anyway. So anyway, hopefully I will be able to continue to Zoom for the rest of the meeting, even though I missed the two earlier topics, one of which was on consent, but lasted, I think, for 35 minutes. Anyway, thank you for my opportunity to comment on this topic today.
Thank you. Any other comment?
There's no other callers.
All right, is there a motion and a second to receive and file this report?
I'll move approval and filing.
Second.
All right, is there any objection to unanimous consent for this motion? Seeing none, we have unanimous consent. It's moved 5-0. I want to point out I made an error in the process for the consent items. We did not receive a motion and a second. Apologize. I'm new at this, jumping right in. So if there's a motion and a second, we're going to run that over one more time.
Motion to approve consent calendar.
All right, thank you. All right, there's a motion Madrone, second Arroyo. Is there any opposition to unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion passes. All right, so now we're going to move on to our 10 o'clock time set, only 15 minutes behind schedule.
Thank
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy Olson. I'm the CEO of the Greater Eureka Chamber, as well as the Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation. And thank you for the opportunity to come here and share with you about a new program that we're developing. I do have some slides that are coming up. Okay, perfect. Good deal, because I wouldn't want to burden you with having to click through some of these slides.
It looks like I have a PDF, so can you hang on a second? I'll convert
Oh,
it to
sure.
I can convert it.
I'm sorry, I
if you
thought it
don't
was sent over
mind.
as a PowerPoint, but yep, sorry about that. And I do want to introduce a couple people who are in the room with me. A couple of my colleagues, Madeira Seaman, who is has worked with the Chamber and the Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation for about 8 months now. About 8 months, and she is going to play a primary role on Home and Humboldt. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And then I'll also introduce Shaw Edwards, who is, this is day 2 for Shaw on our team, and Shaw will be our program manager for the Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation. I think you will all come to know and appreciate both of them if you don't already know them. Super excited about the growth on our team. So. Since I have a minute, I'll do some song and dance. I just wanted to comment on the Chamber's perspective on some of the issues surrounding homelessness and helping to care for the most vulnerable, and throw our hat in the ring to be supportive of this work as well. Carly is Carly Robbins is slated to be elected to our board shortly. So we're excited to be able to be more actively engaged in this in a meaningful way and provide the compassion and perspectives of the business community in this work as well.
Great.
I so apologize. I thought I had sent it as a PowerPoint.
That's
so.
okay. I can just go ahead and slide through the PDF because it is.
That's fine.
We're flexible. We can make this happen.
You know.
Let me see. Yeah.
We do what we can.
Oops. Oh my goodness. If I can get back to the PDF.
No pressure.
Okay.
We're on schedule, more or
You're
less.
ready to go? And so can I still move it forward with the clicker? Okay. All good. All good. So Home and Humboldt. This is presentation number 2 of 3 for me today on this very topic. Just serendipitously, I was at Old Town Rotary this morning here, and then tonight I'm presenting this to City Council. So we can go ahead and skip over the stuff for the chamber. Y'all know what we do. We have some cool things coming up. If you could go back to the previous slide on Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation, just a quick note about what Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation is. Some of you know it is a 501c3 nonprofit that we opened up to be parallel to the chamber, that makes us more eligible for funding, and so we're housing a lot of our programming under the Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation. We have Leadership Redwood Coast, which I think a lot of you know about, Next Level, which is professional development, and our Redwood Coast Women's Conference, Cámara de Comercio, which is a Latinx Chamber of Commerce. We just had a really great half-day program with all Spanish business training for the Latinx community here, and Supervisor Arroyo spoke there, so appreciate that, and got some Headwaters Fund funding for that as well. It was very successful. WindLink, which will, fingers crossed at some point, provide opportunities for local businesses to be part of offshore wind and renewable energy. And Home and Humboldt, which is our 5th kind of program under the Redwood Coast Chamber Foundation, which I'll spend more of my time talking about. So the vision of Home and Humboldt is that our community, our county, will be a desirable place for skilled professionals to come and spend their careers with us. So desired destination, long-term home, and the bottom line is to help increase the access to healthcare, education, professional services, and other needed core services for our community. That's the bottom line, is to increase those resources. So next slide. What is Home and Humboldt? It was designed in partnership with a number of high-level folks at a variety of large employers. It was brought to me initially by Michael Kellerman, who's the chief executive at Providence, and said, Nancy, I have this program idea, so here we are, getting ready to launch it. Our first meeting had every single CEO from all the healthcare systems in the same room twice to talk about this program. So they are fully on board with this. We've had representatives from the county involved in this, Cal Poly, CR, Coast Guard, other major employers as well, some nonprofits that seek to bring in talent from the outside to increase the services available to our community. The goal of it is to help folks who are coming from the outside to settle in, to develop social connections, but also understand how our community works. We have a quirky, wonderful community, and sometimes it's challenging for folks to learn to navigate it. So we want to be wrapping our arms around them to do that. We'll also help to find some shortcuts to employment opportunities for spouses and partners. We're talking with HCOE about how we can help those families that are coming in to find the right schooling opportunities for their students. We're also talking with folks in the realty and real estate and renting industry to figure out how folks can find housing options. We know that's a huge challenge for folks coming in, and then other kinds of tailored services that we can provide to them to help them settle in. So next slide. So a participant in Home and Humboldt is an employee who comes in from outside Humboldt, and they'll receive a variety of services. One of them is a comprehensive welcome package. One of the things that we found that we heard loud and clear in our very first meeting with the CEOs and the senior execs from all these different major employers was they would love to have a consistent welcome package that they offer to folks coming from outside the area. So that's going to be one of our first big deliverables, and make that available to employers. But we don't want to just give people a welcome package with a list of stuff. The sweet spot of this program is providing concierge service, so one-on-one support up to 20 hours per year per person or family, and that's where Madeira comes in. She used to serve as a concierge with the Eureka Visitor Center. So comes in with a very wonderful skill set to be that kind of frontline person to help people find what they need in our community, meet the right folks, that type of thing. We'll also do quarterly events where they can come in and learn more about the community, meet each other. A key thing is to meet people outside the workplace so that they start building those friendships and those bonds to our community so that they'll be more incentivized to stay. We also want them to meet with you all and other community leaders so that they, again, have that deeper connection to Humboldt County, and they can say, well, I can contact Supervisor Bohn because he represents my district, which he does. Thank you. So that they have those really direct ties to our community and our community leaders. And then invitations to excursions, whether it's a Sunday afternoon going out to Fieldbrook Winery with the family, or many of the wonderful things that we offer here in our community. I moved here 7 years ago, and I have family who's lived here for 40 years. I thought I knew the community when I moved up here, but I will tell you there's so much more to this community than I ever knew or imagined. And I am deeply in love with this place, and I want other people to be too, so that they choose to stay. And then maybe excursions to outside the community, going to a Giants game or Dodgers game, because that's part of how we live our lives too, is going outside the community for some of those amenities we don't have here. And then we also have a number of folks who are stepping up to serve as community ambassadors, who we will pair up with those individuals to take them to lunch, go to an event with them, invite them places, introduce them to the right people that will help them feel settled in. So we've got about 8 or 10 folks who have stepped up so far. We're looking for a team of about 30 for that. So again, so I'm kind of on the ground floor in terms of helping to design this program. Madeira will be pivotal in it. Shaw's going to have a role in it as well. So it'll be a team effort. So it takes, programs like this have been tried in different forms over the decades. But it's our understanding this is by far the most robust effort with dedicated staff and a really cohesive plan to make this all happen. So again, we have, our strategic plan has been reviewed by the CEOs and other executives, and they've said, yes, this is what we need. So we feel really confident moving forward. So if you can go ahead and go to the next one. Benefits to program partners, the robust support to their employees to help them stay, the welcome packages so they don't have to go put those together themselves. We could do customized tours for folks as they're coming in, and then helping to report on the success. People ask, what's the success of this program? And the success is, are people staying? And, you know, and also their satisfaction with being here and things like that. So we will be paying attention to those success measures as well. So next slide, please. So where are we in our program development? We have a strategy we expect to launch in March. We're currently fundraising, which has been kind of part of the lagging. We had hoped to launch by the end of this year, but it'll be March. We're making some good headway on our fundraising for it. We'll have a marketing strategy. The welcome packet will be done by March, maybe a little sooner. We're doing a lot of ongoing research. We've done focus groups. I'll, talk to so many different people to inform this. I was just talking last night to a woman who's been here for 5 months, and I said, so what do you need? And she said, I need all these things. And I said, good, because those are on our list. Recruitment of community ambassadors. So if you or somebody you know would like to be a community ambassador, let us know. And then ongoing community outreach. Like I said, this is presentation 2 of 3 for me today. We've got an article coming out in Senior News about it, and we'll just continue to work toward making sure people are aware of this. I was at a Halloween party, and there were 2 doctors standing there, and they were talking about home in Humboldt. They've been hearing about it. They're excited about it. So the buzz is getting out there. We're really pleased with that. So next slide, where we are in funding. We are working toward gathering $250,000 for the first year. So again, it's marketing costs, staff costs, activities for the participants, and a number of different things. So that's for our first year costs. We're looking for investments from 2 different types of sources. One of them is community investors. So folks who know how important this is for our community. So somebody said earlier, healthcare is economic development. All of these things come together to support the economy of our community, but also just the general well-being of our community and making sure folks have the resources they need. So there are some folks who are interested in investing from a community perspective, whether it's, I think there's conversations happening at the county, and some other nonprofit organizations that are interested in investing. And then there's also a fee for service. So this isn't something that we can provide to everybody 20 hours a year, that kind of thing. It's a lot for us to offer. We will have some scholarships, I think, available for folks for employers that are not able to pay this, but most of the employers that we've talked to are like, investing $2,000 to get somebody to stay beyond the year or 2 or 3 that they might stay is a drop in the bucket compared to what it would take to replace them. So we feel solid about this, and that this program can be self-sustaining at some point. Plus, like I said, scholarships for employers who may not be able to afford that $2,000 per person. So that's the basic information about home in Humboldt, and open to questions that you might have.
Great. I'll just go down the line. Supervisor Bushnell, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but thank you for taking the initiative, and to the Eureka Chamber for, I guess, starting this, and hopefully other communities will follow.
Yeah, so, and this is for all of Humboldt County, so we'll be working in all of your districts, so, yeah.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Thank you so much for your work on this. We have talked a lot about this over its development, and I think it's amazing. I wanted to also mention, and you may have already wrapped your mind around this, I'm just thinking of it now, but many of the entities that are seeking like senior executive positions or folks with really special skills are using recruitment firms, and I don't know if there's the option to build this into the recruitment package that those entities are developing. So having a yes, we're going to use this recruitment firm, but then once we find our desired candidate, we're going to make it clear that this is built into that package. Has that been part of the conversation?
Not specifically, but as we, I'll give you an example. So Open Door does perhaps the most robust job of onboarding their folks. They do a lot. And they are also our biggest investor in this program because they see the value of investing that extra $2,000 to have their folks receive these extra services. So they're seeing it as part of a benefits package for folks coming in. So does that answer your question?
It does. I think, for when I'm thinking about honestly thinking about ours and formerly the City of Eureka's recruitment efforts, sometimes we are working with a recruitment firm, and it might be a little bit more challenging for the Human Resources Department and a government agency to be funding an option for certain individuals and not others. Sure. That just might not work very well for them to be making that decision. But if you have the sort of the actual elected body deciding to include that as a benefit as part of the recruitment package, it could just make it could smooth that process a little bit. I'm just thinking out loud here about how it might work for us versus how it might work for a private entity or a nonprofit or something like that. So
for sure,
just wanted to mention that. And then I also want to bring up something that I heard in these interviews with medical providers. A couple different doctors, including those who had, there was one in particular who had, who I was urged to talk to, who had been part of the medical residency program, stayed for an extra year or two, and then had to leave the community for family reasons. They had an aging parent outside of the community, and they needed to be near them, and it just wasn't going to work for them to stay. They loved this community, and they encouraged me to think about success in as far as not just retention, but also like a positive experience and speaking positively to other people. And this person told me that they actually recruited someone else to come here. So there's they spoke so positively about their experience in Humboldt County that they had another early career medical professional. This person was a physical therapist who came here because they heard such good things. So that wouldn't necessarily be seen as a success metric for every organization. But for those that could have that kind of word of mouth be a positive impact, that might be another way of measuring success is the positivity of their experience and whether they would recommend it to others. So obviously we'd rather retain people than anything else, but if they have to leave, because some people do, then that was just something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I really do. And to your previous point, we're glad to work with any employer, including the county, and the CAO is actually part of our advisory committee. So, and we're talking with them about how the county can be involved in this. But, I think that there are some different flexible models for how this gets woven into how it's utilized, for folks coming in. So, but totally get do we do it for these people but not for those people? It's a challenge. So, but we're glad to work with you on that.
And I do want to just say one more thing about it, which is to really just add weight to the importance of this. This is something I heard in those interviews time and time again, was just that people needed help navigating this community. And it was, for those of us who've lived here a long time, I think we forget that or just don't realize that there's so many things that we just inherently know from experience. And a lot of the people who have served this role of mentoring and welcoming new professionals are about to retire or have already retired. So I think we all think, oh, so-and-so does that. But that a lot of the newer recruits in the medical sector in particular, like I would drop some of these names like, oh, do you know so-and-so and so-and-so who are involved in welcoming people in the medical community? And they were like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
So that shift has not, nobody has necessarily taken up that mantle as other folks are either ready to retire or retiring. And so I see this as really filling a critical need. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will throw in there that we're talking with Humboldt Del Norte Medical Society and Humboldt Del Norte IPA, Independent Physicians Association, and others as well are part of this conversation about how we can work on this together. So it's not just us doing it in a vacuum. We're wide open to having people engaged in this conversation.
Good. Anything from this side of the dais? Supervisor Bohn?
If you want to be successful, make sure you include the kids.
Yes.
Parents, if you don't include the kids, let them know, because most sports seasons,
Yes.
band, all that. So get with the Office of Education, find out all the programs, because a parent is not going to stay if their kids aren't happy. And a classic case is Cal Poly the last few years has lost a lot of good people because their kids didn't accept this area very well.
Yeah.
And weren't given all the opportunities. So if you don't include the kids, it just won't. That's who they're working for, is their kids.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
So if you don't open that up and have a full myriad of contacts for them in each one of their cities to be in the band, drama,
Yep.
sports, whatever the case may be, 4-H, FFA, all the programs that are available, because you can keep a kid busy 24/7, but you got to put the effort forward.
Absolutely, and we hear you on that, and kudos to Madeira. She's doing a lot of our research, and a lot of it is centered around, for the kids, whether it's through schools or through daycare, and I know she's collecting information about sports and other kids, kid-related activities. So, but you mentioned some that I'm not sure are on our list yet. So appreciate that, and 100% agree.
Great. I'm going to open this up to public comment unless you have something else
Nope.
to say.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you all
And
so
I'll have a
much.
question for you at the end. So
Okay, great. I'll stick
Is
around.
this, so this is 3 minutes for anyone in the room, and then if there's a hand up, is there a hand up for this? Oh, there's someone behind you. I didn't see that. Seeing none, my question just is, are there models of this from other communities that you're pulling from, or is this just like a completely Humboldt organically created construct?
There are some models that have some similarities, but ours, I will say without hesitation, is far more robust. For example, in Phoenix, they have a program called Find Your Phoenix, and what they do is they offer day-long tours. For $2,000, by the way. And others who have much lighter weight, referrals and things like that, but nothing close to what we're committing to. And even Michael Kellerman, who came from a community, San Luis Obispo, that had a model similar to this, he said this blows that program away. So we're much more ambitious for this program. We've talked to like 6 or 8 different chambers of commerce doing things like that, like had conversations with them, looked things up online, and so we are kind of blazing a trail here too. We had a conversation with Partnership, who are interested in investing in this as well, and they said, so once you get it up and running, can you make this available in all the counties that we serve? So there's great enthusiasm about it. Like I said, ours is a pretty ambitious model, and we're going to just keep learning as we get to the rollout point.
Great. Is there any more comment on this? Seeing none, is there a motion to receive and file? And thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you.
Very educational.
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion from Bushnell.
I'll second.
Second from Arroyo. Is there any opposition to unanimous consent to receive and file this presentation? And seeing none, the motion passes 5-0. And we're going to take a 5-10 minute break here. Actually, we'll come back at 10:45, so folks can have a bio break, and we'll get right into our first public hearing, which will be the amendment to the cannabis micro-business provisions of the inland zoning regulations, et cetera, et cetera. Back. We're going to start into our first public hearing. This is in regards to an amendment to commercial cannabis microbusiness provisions for the inland zoning regulations and yada, yada, yada. So, and what I mean by that is that we're going to open the public hearing. That's what we're doing right now. And I'm going to ask Director Ford to introduce the item in more detail than I just did.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisor Chair Wilson and members of the Board of Supervisors, John Ford, Augustus Grishal, and Rodney Yandel to present a modification to the commercial cannabis land use ordinance to be a little bit more clear and to allow micro businesses a little bit easier. I just want to say this is something that the board received testimony about earlier this year, and in order to allow cultivators to vertically integrate, the board asked staff to go and evaluate the feasibility of developing such an ordinance. As staff looked at it, it became clear that it was easier to modify the ordinance than to write a feasibility report and bring that back. So we made the change and are bringing it back to you this morning. I'm going to give it to Mr. Bushnell to present what this ordinance amendment will do.
All right, I'll try not to repeat John. Microbusinesses comprise of less than 10,000 square feet of cultivation, plus distribution, plus non-volatile manufacturing and retail sales. Any combination of those would typically qualify as a microbusiness, for clarity. We've tried to keep this simple and basically say the highest level of required permit among the required uses. If that's a ZCC, you can get this with a ZCC too. We've made an exception for TPZ and floodplain zones because those would typically prevent you from getting a microbusiness. This exception essentially states if you're not expanding anything, no new buildings, all your cannabis that you're working with is grown on site and you don't have any customers on site, then you can go through this process as well for the microbusiness. In order to make it easier to get manufacturing, we've also added another ZCC option for that, provided that it is in association with a cultivation permit without customers on-site traffic. Structures for the manufacturing also need to be compliant with the cultivation sites eligibility and siting criteria. And similarly to TPZ, you can't bring any cannabis from off-site to work with that. We did receive public comments for both the Planning Commission and today they are discussed in the staff report. The Planning Commission, the comment that we received yesterday evening mostly reiterates the discussion from Humboldt County Growers Alliance from their previous comment. With an additional emphasis saying, this is a first step. We would like the county to continue making it easier for cultivators to have a thriving business, essentially. The planning staff recommends that you adopt the resolution, which finds that the board has considered the EIR for the CCLUO and the addendum to the EIR for the amendment for the microbusiness ordinance, as well as making all the other required findings, and adopts the ordinance amendment as recommended by the Planning Commission. That's the end of my presentation. We can go into more detail about anything you'd like.
As a great presentation, this is the time for board members to ask questions, and I'll start with Supervisor Bohn.
Well, I noticed that it's going to be a case-by-case business, if they're case-by-case situation if somebody wants to do non-volatile in a home dwelling or something like, because of the different types of non-volatile permitting? Is that, am I right on that? Because I mean, these people that are growing less than 10,000 feet and everything else, we open the doors up, but then we said you also have to build a commercial building to do it in, and it makes it cost prohibitive. So as we're trying to make it easier,
Essentially.
it has to be, well, and it can be essentially, and you know, this is a little, most of the horses are out of the barn, so we're trying to save the last few horses we got there. And so the idea is if they've hung on this long, they've been doing it. So I know when you look at this, the idea of them being able to do it in an outside structure that isn't necessarily a commercial building, but it's still a non-volatile operation, is that going to be done on a case-by-case, or is that conceivable?
We're saying case by case because it needs to comply with the cottage industry permitting
Okay.
standards. Yes. For example, cottage industries require that everybody working in the cottage industry itself reside on site. So that doesn't necessarily apply for every cultivator.
Okay.
That doesn't work for everybody. Also, you can't make structural changes that would not be typically seen in a residence. Cottage industries are a very low level of impact, and that's kind of important for the analysis. And my apologies for interrupting you. I thought you had paused.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. I do it all the time. The other thing I'd like to know is this going to open it up? They won't be able to sell the product that they're manufacturing directly, right? Because one of the biggest things happening right now is a lot of the cultivators are pretty desperate to sell. So somebody will come in and offer more money per pound, and they think, well, God, that's a great deal, but they can offer more money per pound because they're not going to follow the. Most of my complaints lately have been from distributors not paying the cultivator. I mean, $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 out there, which is make or break. Basically, our taxes are no. So, is there going to be a direct linkage? You know.
So in order to be able to sell your product, you're going to need to modify your permit in order to allow for off-site retail sales. That is part of this ordinance, essentially saying this is part of the ZCC that you could be getting, plus the business license with the tax collector, basically saying you can transport your product yourself. A self-transport business.
All right. I appreciate the effort very much being made, because who is left in the market, I think, is still strong. We still have a name, and it's still a viable industry. It's just not as fluid as it once was, but there are still people making money in the industry. So, and I want to shout out to Ross for sending his letter also. I appreciate him keeping us up to tune on that stuff.
Great. Supervisor Madrone?
Yeah, I too want to thank staff for their work on this, and HCGA as well as others. Still a little bit of barriers there with the DCC, but at least the pathway's laid out to be able to move forward locally and then to tie that in with other stuff with the DCC. But all a part of trying to help with local sales. I think it's a great thing. Thank you.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Could you expand just a little bit more on the issue that was identified around the state building or state commercial building standards? I don't know if there's anything else to add there, but I'd just like to comprehend that a little bit more.
Essentially, the state requires trimming to be done in a commercial building. We've gotten around that for processing in residential spaces as basically a cottage industry as well. That's kind of the route we're going. Do you want to add to that?
But then people need to live on site.
Part of the struggle is that it's a building code issue. So once you start putting employees in a building, that needs to be a commercial structure. We've allowed people to do things, as Ms. Kershaw mentioned, as a cottage industry within their residence, which doesn't trigger that requirement. What's that? or an accessory structure, right, but it's got to be basically part of the residence. But once you expand to a point where you've got employees within within a structure, it's got to be a permitted structure. And that's not the cannabis ordinance that does that. That's the building code.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Bushnell.
2 questions. One around what you just said about the commercial aspect for trimming, but if you're trimming yourself and you don't have employees, that changes the qualifications?
We've allowed people to trim in their homes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. And then second, the transport license is been a second, it's its own license. So you mentioned that the micro business would allow you to transport, but I believe that,
Excuse me. You would still need that license from the.
thank you, I don't want people to assume that you get both. You still need to have a transport license to transport. And then with this, does it change any or take away from the state process of selling?
No, you would still need all state licenses that are typically required.
Okay. Okay. That's all my comments for right now.
Oh, well, we're not really in comments, it's questions. Do you want to wait? Okay, great. Supervisor Madrone.
So this doesn't deal specifically with workforce housing, temporary housing. That's a different thing that we're going to see in the not-too-distant future?
Yes, that's coming up in December.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. I just have a quick question about the CEQA nexus for this. And so this is basically teeing off of the original CEQA for the ordinance itself. Do I have that correct?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that that's what that was. All right, seeing no more questions from the board, we're going to open this up to public comment. And we're going to take comments in the room. Again, if you're online, raise your hand now. Don't wait. There's a bit of a delay, so get in there while you can. And we have, it looks like one commenter in the room, so take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Ross Gordon on behalf of Humboldt County Growers Alliance. Thank you to staff for working on this. Thanks for paying attention to this issue. I think you know, but this is definitely one of the top issues, if not the major issue that farmers here are facing broadly, which is trying to sell a craft product, but having to go through multiple middlemen on the way to doing that, distribution and retail. That means you're not necessarily controlling the quality of your product as it moves through the supply chain. It means you're not necessarily able to tell your story as it moves through the supply chain. And it means, as I think was pointed out, you may not get paid. And a lot of people are in that situation. So really appreciate trying to address this issue. Also appreciate the discussion and I think the acknowledgement of the reality, which is this is a incremental step in the right direction and one that we urge you to support and approve today. But also I think it's important to understand contextually what barriers are going to continue to exist. I think this sort of widens the opportunity to jump through a bunch of other hoops that are also going to be significant to jump through. So I think the discussion of building code, appreciate it. And if there are ways, for farmers to be able to work with the planning department and see if they may be able to fall under a cottage exemption, I think that's something that could be very helpful. And also, keeping in mind that there are state barriers and requirements here as well. And those are things that we've advocated on in our state policy work for many years and still hopeful we can see movement on some of those items. If we can see policy change at the state level, things like, for example, allowing farmers to sell at events without a full retail license on site, not requiring $2 million in liability insurance to transport a small amount of your own product, not requiring 24/7 on-site video surveillance to be able to bring manufacturing on-site or distribution on-site. All of these are examples of things that I think are significant barriers at the state level that we've worked on over the years and have appreciated the county being willing to support us in a lot of those efforts as well. So I think all that's to say we support this item, encourage you to move it forward, and also encourage continued work to try to really unwind some of the other barriers that exist here. And I think that may be an iterative process that involves changes at the state level as well. Thanks.
Great. Is there any comments online?
Yes, we have 2 hands up. First caller, 7718, *6 to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes.
unfortunately, the horses aren't always out of the barn. The ones that are in the barn are long on their tooth and hobbled, and this should have happened 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, you know, it was brought forward at that time, and I can't understand what took so long. Yeah, there is direct integration. People do it, and they're forced to, and it's called the black market. I mean, with what's been happening with people not getting paid and not forming co-ops. I mean, this is something that before it even was legalized, I spoke to people. I said, you guys need to band together, form co-ops to market and integrate all the way from growing to the final customer without being black market. So here we are, a little bit late, extremely late, but every little bit helps, I guess. And but for those, I think it was pretty well admitted by actually Sean Quincy with the county, our branding really doesn't exist anymore. It's fading rather rapidly if it does. It did at one time, but doesn't seem to be anymore. And so I don't have any problem with you going with the suggestions that the Growers Alliance has here, especially when you're helping the smaller people who should have been helped a long time ago, but we're kind of passed over for the large grows and go big as we can and all this other stuff that's going on. So sad state of affairs, but here we are. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Next caller, 1180, *6 to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. This is Marissa from ETA Management Group. I would like to speak today regarding self-processing within an auxiliary structure. Very shortly, the DCC is going to be passing new sanitation regulations that say that if you have a family pet, you will not be allowed to process or have your animal in any space where processing of cannabis is occurring. And so, you know, it might be possible to do it in your house right now, but the state's going to say no to that. And so I'm wondering what the department would like to do to mitigate everyone who is now allowed to trim inside their residence from being barred from doing that here in the very near future. I'm wondering if it's possible to allow processing, self-processing by hand, no machine, with a machine, no employees, in a greenhouse or in another ag-exempt structure, so that you don't have, so you're not limited to just being inside your residence where you may well have a family pet. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, and there are no more hands up.
Great. Thank you for those comments, and I'm bringing it back to staff to address some of those questions and comments.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound flippant, but if that's going to be a requirement of the state and you're processing in your garage, keep the pet out of the garage. I don't know what else to say, because you could have a greenhouse, and if you're letting the pet in the greenhouse, the same problem exists. The problem isn't with the structure. The problem is with the presence of the pet.
Right. And so, okay.
And then I will say, I do understand what Ross Gordon said in terms of there still being barriers, and we will continue to look and see what we can do to allow things under a cottage industry provision, so that if people are doing things on a small scale in their residences that fit within those guidelines, if we need to make additional changes to the code, we will. Otherwise, we will just seek to interpret that as being consistent with the code.
Okay, great. Bringing it back to the board, are there any statements about this or any more questions? Okay, Supervisor Arroyo.
I mean, I think when these issues around cottage businesses come up in general, I mean, I would love to see us have the opportunity to have more flexibility with people's home businesses. I think we recognize that that's part of the business culture here. And, you know, from an environmental health and building perspective, this affects, you know, home bakeries the same way that it does, and, you know, tamale makers the same way that it does, you know, these micro businesses. And so, you know, I think we can continue to look at what opportunities we have to allow more flexibility and work with the state on that and make that a clear priority. I think it applies more broadly than in the example of cannabis micro businesses, and more people contact, you know, us all the time saying, why can't I do X, Y, and Z? It would make more sense for me. I have this family run business and it's so small, and, you know, and then, you know, the getting into the nitty gritty of the building issues and the environmental health issues always kind of is more complex than people think. So, and that came up at the Cámara de Comercio, the Latina Business Summit that was mentioned earlier. A lot of, you know, home businesses there as well. So anyway, just want to voice that I appreciate the effort to push for there to be more flexibility, and there's some limitations, obviously, but where we can, yeah, I'd love to see more expansion of that.
Great. Any other comments before we move on? I just want to say that it seems like the state is viewing cannabis as something that is ingested like food. And so that's kind of the category there. It appears that they're putting it into. So, all right. With Supervisor Madrone.
Time to make a motion?
Yep. Hold on. We'll just get it so clear. So what we're looking for is a motion to adopt the resolution, which finds that we have considered the EIR as well as the amended EIR, and that we find the amendments comply with the general plan and zoning ordinance, are in the public interest and consistent with the purpose of the ordinance, as well as we are adopting the ordinance amendments from Title III, Division 1, Chapter 4, 314-55482 and 3145.4.10.3. I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to do exactly that.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any objection to unanimous
Could I
consent?
just clarify one thing real quick?
Yes, sir.
Just in case anybody ever challenges this.
Yes.
It's not a amendment to the EIR, it's an addendum.
Oh, excuse me, an addendum. I read it wrong. Thank you.
So, sorry.
Clarified. Thank you.
Exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly what we meant. Okay, with that, is there any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion passes 5-0, and we will be moving on to our next item, which is, excuse me, it's another public hearing. Hold on, let me get my cheat sheet here. All right, this is a public hearing where we're going to talk about the unmet transit needs assessment for fiscal year 26 and 27. And so this is where we open the public hearing. And welcome Mr. Madsen, Director Madsen. Please introduce the item.
Good morning, Chair Wilson, members of the board. Tom Madsen, Director of Public Works. This item before you is our annual unmet transit needs hearing. The purpose of these hearings with the cities and the county is to provide extra outreach for public input to provide to the Humboldt County Association of Governments for their decisions on funding unmet transit needs.
All right.
And I just want to go over that the county currently funds a number of transit needs, including but not limited to Redwood Transit System, Eureka Transit, Eureka Dial-A-Ride, Southern Humboldt Local and Intercity, Arcata McKinleyville Dial-A-Ride, Adult Day Healthcare, Mad River, Humboldt Senior Resource Center, Willow Creek Route, Transit Set Aside, which goes to HCOG for a bus replacement fund, to HTA for their bus replacement fund. And recently we've added the Yurok Tribe, but they are not getting full funding because we have expended all of our annual funding. For this year, that was almost $2.7 million the county received in LTF funding that we have moved right over to transit. With that, I would request that you open for public comment and get as much comment as we can to forward to HCOG. Thank you.
Great. First, we're going to see if there's comment or questions from the board. I'll start on this end. Is there anybody? Supervisor Arroyo?
Yes, I know we don't have members of the public, it looks like, in the room today. Maybe we have some on Zoom, but I want to lift up something that I just heard recently. And I think these hearings are kind of formal. And so a lot of times we hear things from our constituents that, and I want to kind of have this like no wrong door approach of giving feedback. So I attended a meeting in the town of Samoa last week, and a matter came up around the transportation that is currently provided by Humboldt Transit Authority to the Phyllis Rex apartments, which are the affordable apartments in Samoa. Many of the residents there are clients of DHHS, and DHHS has a relationship with the developer and an agreement where they will work to provide transportation for residents, because many folks that live there don't have reliable transportation in any other way. So there's a shuttle that's sort of an on-demand service right now that's serving that community. And I learned that there's been some, I think, some miscommunication around the payment for that. So that is to be paid by the operator of the apartments and for the whole family. So it's paying for like one adult and one child, and ending by 3 p.m. So they need to be meeting the needs of the residents. And so I have notified both DHHS and HTA that I heard this, and so we'll be working and meeting around that, but I want to make sure that it's recorded as a need that isn't being adequately met at this time. And so I don't believe that the cost of that is going to fall to the county. I believe it's going to fall to the owner of the apartments. But Tom, if you have any experience with that particular agreement, feel free to weigh in. I think it's mostly been between DHHS and Humboldt Transit Authority.
Yeah, and we do not do direct transit funding to like private. We just fund the transit agency, and then they do the service.
Yeah.
And so I'm not privy to that one, and I would defer to HTA and DHHS on what they're doing there.
Yeah, and I will be communicating with them about it, but it was, it affects potentially up to a couple hundred residents, and they don't really have another safe way to get around. So I did want to make sure that it gets into the HCOG notes too.
Yes, it's definitely a good comment for unmet transit needs for HCOG to consider.
Thank you.
Great. Supervisor Bohn, anything, or Supervisor?
No, I haven't heard any complaints. I know I'm somewhat aware of the situation out at Samoa because that was part of their funding, that there was transportation to be provided, and they worked out an arrangement at the time with HTA. So I'm not sure the full details of it, but I know there was quite a bit of discussion that I happened to get thrown in the middle of back then, but that's been 6-8 years ago. So
Great. Supervisor Madrone? Okay, and just a reminder, as supervisors, we have the ability to submit any comments we get from our community members directly to not just Tom, but to HTA as well. So please do that whenever you can. And so, did you want to say something? Okay, Supervisor Rowe.
I think we had also heard from a community member who's come to several meetings in the past, and I think was not able to be here today, that there's a desire to have transit service to Ferndale to attend events there. It's currently not served by transit.
Okay, I'm going to open this up to public comment.
Thank you. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
I hope you're able to help out those people out there in the Danco project out in Samoa. That's one of the reasons when these projects are allowed. Sometimes it's not the best location, you know, to have large projects where everybody's isolated that far away from their services. Hopefully, the agreement that we've had will be put back in place and they will have that service. One of the biggest things that I think it would take a partnership because it's not strictly within the county, but we have two high needed transit things. Basically, when we can't fly out of here or we can't get a schedule, either SFO or now currently up to Medford. Those are a lot of people of us are having to drive to those locations. This last trip to Mexico, we went down to Sacramento instead. But I think SFO and Medford up there both could use some kind of transit for us to get up there. Reasonable price, probably would be a red eye that would leave, you know, in the middle of the night and get us up there for first flight, and then also get us back at the end of the day. So I've been discussing this before with other people regarding it. Sounds like it might take a partnership, but it's not strictly within our county, but it would benefit everything we're talking about as far as everybody wanting to come here, being able to come here, and have a ability to come here in a reasonably priced and an efficient manner. So those are my comments basically regarding the unmet transit need. And it's been ongoing forever, as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes because of weather, we can't get in or out of here, whereas if we had an alternative, rather than driving as individuals, which is very expensive if you have one person going to either of those locations, under the 4 hours or something like that both ways. So take an opportunity to bring this to your attention.
Great. Is there any more comment?
That's all on Zoom.
Great. And I don't see anyone in the room, so I want to close out this hearing. Just a couple things. Again, anyone in the public who has comments on any kind of public transit needs, please forward any of those comments to any one of the supervisors who will forward it to our staff, but also to HTA as well. And I can tell you that almost always there is not just, it just doesn't just get into the system in terms of the data that we use to upgrade these systems, but you generally get a response as to what the status is of that situation, so that's very helpful, and I really appreciate this, our staff and the staff at HTA for being so responsive in that way. And I just want to emphasize we do go to regional transit workshops and conferences, and I will say that the North State and Humboldt County are innovators and have a lot of successes. That still doesn't mean we could do better. I've been to countries and places that have much more robust public transit in rural spaces, but for where we are and what we're doing, we're doing above average. That doesn't mean we can't do better. We need to do better. And with that, I'm going to close this out. Is there a motion to receive and file this report?
So made.
I'll second.
Is there any opposition to unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries 5-0, and we are closing this public hearing.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, did the motion include directing the clerk of the board to forward an action summary of the meeting to HCOG?
Sure.
I think it did because it was what it was receive and file. So
Okay,
it's
that's-
filing to HCOG.
Filing it to HCOG and anyone else who is relevant. So, all right, good job, everybody. We're moving on. Next thing we're doing is appointment of chair and vice chair for the Board of Supervisors for the calendar year 2026. And we have the clerk of the board, Tracy Giamacco.
Hi, good morning. So before you, I have 3 items. So the first item is to appoint a chair and the vice chair for the calendar year of 2026 and the remainder of this calendar year. Typically, the board rotates by district. However, it is board discretion. Currently, Supervisor Wilson is serving as the vice chair.
Okay. Is there, last time I just want to say I didn't do chair because we were in the midst of COVID, kids at home, all kinds of stuff, and we had a volunteer, Virginia Bass, who did a wonderful job, enjoyed it, so she took it on. I'm completely ready to take on the chairmanship if that's the desire of the board, and that's it.
I'll make a motion for Supervisor Wilson to be chair and Supervisor Arroyo to be vice chair.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Yes. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks a lot. The last meeting, I believe, when the topic was brought up, I think the quote from Mike was as consistent thing. It is not something I want to do, but I'll do. I would recommend, if it's not something you want to do, that somebody else take on, maybe Supervisor Arroyo take on, the same as Virginia did last time. When we look at someone who's chair, I have a saying, we have a saying in construction, if you can't get here on time, get here when you can, and we were late today. We also had a consent item that went on for over 30 minutes, which should have obviously been pulled from consent. I think that's part of what a chair should be doing. The other thing is, we have precedent set here that the chair should not be engaged in throwing the F-bomb, and unfortunately, as I recall, that was thrown by Supervisor Wilson at the state lands meeting regarding the Harbor District topic when he wasn't getting his way, and also the first day, I believe, when he was actually a supervisor, that was thrown at the time, and because he didn't have the office he wanted, and apparently staff had to put up and tolerate that. That's not the kind of chair I guess we're supposed to have. So I would recommend that Mike Wilson, supervisor, interim chair, or whatever he is, go ahead and have somebody else consider filling that particular position. I think it's going to be in our best interest. And that's my recommendation. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
All right, is there any other?
There's not.
Okay, great. Seeing none, is there any opposition to unanimous consent, or is there any more discussion from the board?
I just want to clarify, it does say on here that this is for calendar year 2026, and we said verbally that it was going to be also through the remainder of this year, but I just wanted to make it clear that that's what we're talking about here.
The motion maker recognizes that.
Okay, great.
Great, all right. Is there any opposition to unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the next item, which is appointment to the member and appointment of member and alternate to CSAC, which is the California State Association of Counties Board of Directors for 2026 calendar year. And that's where we're at right now.
Great. So the member and the alternate to the CSAC are appointed by the respective Board of Supervisors for a one-year term, commencing with the first date of the annual CSAC conference. And this year, the conference is being held in San Jose with the first Board of Directors meeting on Monday, December 1st. Therefore, this item is in front of you and comes before the annual appointment list. The current members are Supervisor Bushnell as the member, and alternate is Supervisor Arroyo.
Great. Is there any discussion or comments from the board on how to move forward with this? And if not, I'm going to move it to public comment if there's anything in public comment. There is, I'll hear from the board first then. Anybody? Supervisor? Okay. Does anyone want this position? All right, I'm going to, yes, go ahead.
I'm happy to serve either as the alternate or the primary member. I do attend the CSAC meetings for the Coastal Counties group, and I hope to continue doing that, although that'll go to a vote at the first, at the December annual meeting. And it's a co-chair situation where there's someone from the North Coast, Central Coast, and Southern Coast who serve on that. So anyway, I will be going either way. I'm happy to serve. I also know Supervisor Bushnell really enjoys that role.
Okay. And moving to public comment.
Thank you. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
I support the continuance of the two people serving. I'm not aware of either of them.
Hold on there, commenter. We seem to have lost you there. Hold on.
I believe I'm unmuted now. I got muted, now I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
So I do support the continued service of the two people who are on there. I don't have any reluctance as far as them representing the county and serving us in a professional manner. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on this.
Great. Thank you very much.
That's all.
That's it. Anyone in the room? All right. We have a volunteer from Supervisor Arroyo. I'm happy to, if we want to move forward, nominate Supervisor Arroyo as our representative to CSAC. And as an alternate, I'll throw in myself. And we'll see how that goes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion from this board? Is there any opposition to unanimous consent? Yes. Okay. Since there is opposition to unanimous consent, we will move forward with a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Arroyo?
Yes.
Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Bohn? And Supervisor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Great. Moving on to the next item. We are going to do the appointment of the 2026 delegate and alternate to rural county representatives of the Board of Directors for, alternate to rural county representatives of California Board of Directors and Golden State Finance Authority and Golden State Connect Authority. And I'm going to give this to Tracy.
Hi. Okay, one more appointment. This one also comes before you prior to the board's list of appointments because they also like to meet during the CSAC convention and they also print documents and set their schedule based on the appointments for the 2026 year. Currently, the member is Supervisor Bohn and the alternate is Supervisor Bushnell.
All right. Is there, we do have public comment on this? Okay. Supervisor Bohn, do you want to jump in for a minute or do you want to wait for a public comment?
Well, yeah, I would very much like to keep serving. I serve obviously on the NACO board, and then I'm also the RCRC rep on the Western Interstate Regions. I think I represent us very well. Haven't even made anybody mad for the 2 raffle prizes the last 2 years, which was #1 this year. And I work with RCRC staff very well, which isn't saying much because they're very, very easy to work with, and they do a lot. Our staff depends on them a lot. I like being the conduit between our staff and them, and we work with them quite a bit, and I think I've earned the right. I enjoy it. In 13 years, I think I've missed 1 or 2 meetings, so the alternate is the greatest job in the world on this one. So that's my feelings. I feel honored to represent RCRC for Humboldt County, and I think I serve them well.
Great. Is there any other comment from board members here today? Moving on to the public comment.
Thank you. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Chair Wilson, it's kind of a point of order. It's hard for the public to comment on something that we don't know what the slate is. In other words, we're not aware of who is to be the alternate, the way I understood it. Maybe I didn't hear right. I do support Supervisor Bohn to continue as the primary, and I also support Supervisor Bushnell as far as being the alternate, continuing that way. So maybe in the future you could hold off on public comment till we actually know what slate we're commenting on. So I guess I have to make this one halfway in the void. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate that. Yes, I'm happy to volunteer as alternate for RCRC. It's an organization I haven't been a part of so far, and I'd love to get to know those folks better, as well as I feel like we need to align in terms of policy with that state organization. So
May I interrupt you? We still have one more public comment.
let's hear it from one more caller.
Thank you. Caller 9535, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, Chair and members of the board. It's just Connie Stewart calling to also say I think a wonderful combination would be Supervisor Bohn and our Chair, Supervisor Wilson, for RCRC. This is an incredibly important posting, especially now at the time RCRC members are incredibly engaged at being the front line for fighting for funding both in Washington and in Sacramento. Just today we heard another risk to our CalFresh program, and the dismantling of the Department of Ed is on track and all of that. And I know that all of our partners at RCRC will be working with us to make sure that our region is well protected from budget cuts both at the state and federal level. So with that, I just thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in favor of both of the members, and just want to say it's been an incredible opportunity for us to be part of RCRC. Thank you.
Now that's all.
Great. Is there a motion to move this forward?
I'll make that motion. I do have a comment in a moment.
This is your time.
Oh.
Make a motion.
Do we
Make a
need a
comment to
second?
your motion.
Okay, I'm making a comment to my motion, which is just to point out that, as we've discussed before, this is the appointments to the RCRC, the Finance Authority, and the Golden State Connect Authority, and doesn't include Golden State Natural Resources, which, Supervisor Bohn is welcome to serve on in his own capacity, but not representing Humboldt.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Any more discussion? And if not, can we, we need a second.
Second.
I did hear the motion. I think a comment about a possible motion, but not actually a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was for the proposal of Supervisor or Chair Wilson of that combination of Rex Bohn as the primary and Mike Wilson as the alternate.
And it sounds like we have a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition to unanimous consent? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. We are done with the portion of the meeting that we're having in these chambers, except for when we come back for closed session. Do we have any kind of read out for closed session? And do we have an estimate on the time that will be in closed session?
Yes, I would say we'll be in closed session for 45 minutes to an hour. I'll read it in, and I do need to coordinate with our attorneys, so I'm wondering, Supervisor Wilson, if you want to wait for lunch or take lunch beforehand.
I would offer that if you say 45 minutes to an hour, do you really think so? Or are we gonna spin out in 2 hours because you know this board?
That is up to you all.
Okay. And Supervisor Bohn, and then we'll take public comment. Don't worry, I got you.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have lunch being delivered.
Oh. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Seems like we're gonna have some food in the house, so that's not bad. So with that, we're gonna take public comment.
Okay, thank you. Callers, actually, would the CAO like to read this in before I take public comment?
Yes,
Yeah, there
please.
you go.
Thank you.
We'll get this. We'll get it.
It's the intention of the Board of Supervisors to meet in closed session to discuss exposure to litigation in one potential case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D. In addition, the Board of Supervisors will meet in closed session to review the county's position and instruct its designated labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. And finally, it's the intention of the Board of Supervisors to meet in closed session regarding the initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, for which there's one potential case.
Okay, now we'll take public comment.
Thank you. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to speak on item 1, discuss exposure to litigation, one potential case. Where are the supporting documents? I don't see them in here. I believe it's county council's job to put them in or not. Last time, since there's something to be politically going on, the letters of potential litigation were actually in there. One of the few times I've seen that. I don't know who's actually reviewing to make sure we either have those documents or we don't. Regarding the case of this nature, I highly recommend you don't do one of the dumbest things I've seen in a long time. You're being sued for a certain process. The process isn't right. And yet during testimony regarding that particular case, it was multiple, I think 3 people up there, 2 in particular, referred to as a conky process, a process that needs to be looked at, has issues. You basically are admitting in the administrative record that the litigation that's been filed against you is justified. I highly recommend that sometimes silence is golden when it comes to these topics. Those of you who don't understand what you're actually doing and what an administrative record is, don't testify basically against the county and make it a lawyer's dream. So that's my recommendation on these particular topics. I hope we're able to settle with our workers sooner rather than later, so the perception isn't, and that's item number 2, isn't that we're just having somebody there to say no. Hopefully everybody will be realistic. There's not going to be money, and you hear the funding's going away on just about every single facet of what the county does. You're going to have to dip into your general fund to fill those certain things if you desire to. And so it's something very important to work out with your workers. Maybe they get another day off or something like that, or some other trade that way sooner rather than later. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I always caution about initiating litigation unless you have a sure thing that you're going forward with, because anybody can counter sue you, or any company or any group, and you could be on the hook for legal fees and other costs. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. CAO Hayes.
Yes, just a point of clarification on item 1. I didn't read off all of the code sections. It's 54956.9D2 and E1, and E1 specifically does not require any attachments to be included.
Thank you. And you say at maximum an hour, is that what you're thinking?
I think so.
All right. I'm going to be conservative on this. I'm going to say we'll be back here at 1 p.m. Give us a little time. All right. 1 p.m. We'll be back at 1 p.m. Eric, you hear that? All right. We'll let you know if that stretches out. So we got your number, buddy. You ready to jump in? Okay, we are sorry. I have a little bit of a donut in my mouth there. Hold on.
Do I finish chewing first?
All right. Okay, we're back. It is 1:30 more or less, actually 1:25. Back from closed session. CEO Hayes, do we have anything to report out?
Thank you, Chair Wilson. In regards to items K1, 2, and 3, there were no reportable actions.
This meeting is adjourned.